Thanks so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham.
And I'm Lori Johnson. The Islamic State and Boko Haram have joined forces. The joining of the two Islamic terror groups has been in the works since last week. First, the leader of Boko Haram pledged allegiance to the Islamic State through an audio recording. Then Thursday, Islamic State leaders made it official, responding to the pledge, saying, "I proclaim to you today the expansion of the caliphate to West Africa." The caliph, may God protect him, has accepted the sworn allegiance of the Sunni Brothers' call for the jihad. We congratulate our Muslim and Mujahideen brothers in West Africa for their allegiance. The Islamic State seized much of northern and western Iraq last summer, but it's now struggling against Iraqi and Kurdish forces. Boko Haram has been weakened by a multinational force that's dislodged it from a score of northeastern Nigerian towns.
ISIS shocked the world yet again by using a 12-year-old boy to execute an Israeli Arab accused of being a spy. As Chris Mitchell reports, the victim's father says his son was no spy, just a misled teenager.
When Mohammed Musalam's father Saeed saw his son in an orange jumpsuit, he knew it was over.
I already knew from watching television that this is the uniform they use when they're going to kill somebody.
Mohammed lived in this apartment complex in a mixed Jewish-Arab neighborhood here in Jerusalem. His parents say that ISIS lured and deceived their son on the internet to join their cause.
My son said they told us beautiful women, money, nice cars, fancy villas, the Garden of Eden. But there's nothing here of that. They hardly give us money to buy food in the village, so I want to return home.
Mohammed flew to Istanbul, crossed the Turkish border into Syria, and joined ISIS. After realizing ISIS's promises were just lies, he tried to escape. His father sent him money to help, but then saw the picture of his son in an orange jumpsuit. The 19-year-old met his doom at the hands of what ISIS calls a cub of the caliphate. The youngster shot Mohammed in the head, then 3 more times while crying, "Allahu Akbar." ISIS claim Mohammed worked for Israel's spy group, the Mossad.
Mohammed is a good man. He doesn't work with the Shin Bet, with the Mossad. There's nothing like this. He's a little kid. ISIS said that about him because he wanted to return to his dad and to Israel.
Israel's defense minister made an unusual public step of denying Mohammed was a spy. Like many young Arabs, Mohammed was swept up by the internet propaganda and growing influence of ISIS in places like Gaza and the West Bank. Saeed warns other parents to watch what their sons and daughters are doing.
My wife and I both say to everyone to watch their kids' computers and their phones and check them all the time. Check who they're talking to and who they're with. Check them all the time.
Tragically for Mohammed, his father's warning came too late. Chris Mitchell, Neve Yaakov, Jerusalem.
The United States should provide weapons for the Kurdish fighters so they can fight against ISIS. That's what Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky says. Paul tells Breitbart News the Kurds are the best fighters, but he says they aren't getting enough arms. He also called for the creation of a new nation of Kurdistan. He says it's easier to say than to actually make it happen because Turkey and Iraq would have to go along with the idea.
War and persecution in the Middle East are threatening the existence of ancient Christian communities. A prominent church leader from the Assyrian Church of the East visited our nation's capital this week to deliver an urgent plea for help. CBN's chief international correspondent Gary Lane has more.
Bishop Mar Awal Royal leads the Assyrian Church of the East Diocese of California. In Washington, he warned that immediate action must be taken to help Middle Eastern Christians before it's too late.
We have a systematic destruction of the ancient Assyrians, if you will, through the artifacts, and also of the modern Assyrians, the modern Assyrian Christians. This is a plan that's very calculated, very systematic, and I would add that it could be defined as genocide.
Bishop Royal suggests without strong, decisive action from the West, Assyrian Christians, one of the oldest Christian communities in the world, could face annihilation. He says what Middle East Christians are facing today is martyrdom truly defined.
We are going back to the early church, to what we read about in the book of Acts, to the martyrdom of St. Stephen.
In late February, ISIS drove 5,000 Assyrian Christians from their homes in northeastern Syria, in and around the city of Tal Tamr. As many as 350 of them were kidnapped. CBN News terrorism analyst Eric Stakelbeck is the author of the new book, ISIS Exposed. He says only strong leadership and a forceful response against ISIS will save the ancient Christian communities.
They need to be decisively crushed. I think what we did in World War II with the German war machine, the Japanese war machine, we crushed them, we demoralized them, their ideology was proven bankrupt. They were defeated, soundly defeated. We need to do that with ISIS right now.
Bishop Royale says people around the world also need to pray.
We should pray for the immediate release of the innocent children and women and elderly who have been kidnapped. We need to pray that the governments in the West will feel the urgency of the matter and act accordingly. And also we should pray for our enemies. That may be difficult to say. We should pray for those who are perpetrating these atrocious acts against the Assyrian Christians because Christ has taught us to do so.
Gary Lane, CBN News.
The latest American health worker to contract Ebola while volunteering in Africa is being treated at the National Institutes of Health. The organization announced Thursday it would receive the patient at its hospital in Bethesda, Maryland. The patient had been volunteering at an Ebola treatment center in Sierra Leone and is now transported to the United States in isolation on a chartered plane.
Alabama's House of Representatives has approved the Freedom of Religion in Marriage Act. The bill says no one can require a judge, minister, or church to perform a wedding against their convictions and gives civil immunity to churches, ministers, and religious affiliated organizations if they refuse to host or recognize a wedding. Opponents of the bill argue it could lead to discrimination because it would allow religious affiliated organizations to deny recognition to gay marriages. The bill will now move on to the Alabama Senate.
A bipartisan anti-human trafficking bill stalled in the Senate this week. Democrats took issue with an abortion provision in the measure.
The clause in question bans the use of taxpayer dollars for funding abortions. It's something Republicans say isn't new to any bill related to women's health care.
The ironic thing about what's evidently now, in the eyes of the Democrats at least, derailed something that has such a unanimous support here in the United States Senate is language that they all voted for as recently as December of 2014. The Hyde language is something, no matter where you are on abortion politics, has been a position that has been a consensus view around here that tax dollars shouldn't go to support abortions. That's been the case here literally since 1976.
Disagreements between leaders in both parties over the abortion provision has the bill's fate on hold.
Americans say the government is the #1 problem our country is facing. A new Gallup poll shows about 18% say it is the most important U.S. problem. Last month, concern about the government and the economy almost tied for first, but concerns about the economy dropped by 5%. Americans now say the economy and jobs tie for second place among the issues that concern them most.
The revealing of the Apple Watch this week has once again put new technology in the spotlight. But the tiny timepiece with its many capabilities has critics sounding a warning. Mark Martin takes a look at the concerns associated with advancing technology.
The first big electronic computer, built in 1946, filled a 30 by 50 foot room, contained 18,000 vacuum tubes, and weighed more than 30 tons.
Technology has come a long way.
Newsreel audiences marveled at the stories of the mathematical wizardry of these magic brains.
Huge magic brains that were followed by mainframe computers and eventually led to desktop computers, laptops, and then smartphones and tablet computers. The latest tech headline, the Apple Watch, announced this week. It's more than just a watch. It has processing abilities like a computer and communication abilities like a smartphone. It also has Apple Pay capabilities.
With the built-in speaker and microphone, you can receive calls on your watch. I have been wanting to do this since I was 5 years old.
Smaller and smaller technology, yet more powerful with each advance. This has critics like consumer privacy expert and best-selling author Dr. Catherine Albrecht pointing to just where the advances in technology could eventually lead.
You also have, according to some recent published studies, up to 50% of Americans saying that they would welcome an implanted device in their hand if it would do those same things that the iWatch does. So we're kind of moving closer and closer to that right hand and closer to the fulfillment of biblical prophecy about the mark of the beast.
And using this technology to buy and sell could be on the horizon. In Finland recently, the CEO of a major corporation claimed to be the first person to accept digital payment into his hand implant in the form of Bitcoin.
It's certainly gaining momentum. The proponents of this claim that up to 1,000 people worldwide have been implanted with this technology, and they're really seeing this as the wave of the future.
Mark Martin, CBN News.
NASA is on a billion-dollar mission to study the Earth and Sun's magnetic fields. They're launching 4 identical unmanned spacecraft on the magnetic mission. One of the Atlas spacecraft blasted off Thursday night from Cape Canaveral, Florida. 4 observatories will orbit together in a pyramid formation to provide a 3D view for NASA to study. NASA is hoping to understand magnetic mysteries that could explain things like solar storms and how magnetic fields create energy.
Coming up, chilling stories of survival. Former hostages recount the terrifying details of their captivity at the hands of Muslim jihadists. It's one of the deadliest Islamic terror groups in the world. We're talking about Boko Haram.
Their uprising in Nigeria has driven more than 1 million people from their homes. They've killed, raped, or kidnapped thousands.
And as George Thomas tells us in this exclusive report, those who have survived their brutality tell of unspeakable horrors.
With every kidnapping or attack, this young Nigerian relives the nightmare of weeks spent under Boko Haram's control.
We asked them repeatedly why they are doing what they're doing. They told us this is an all-out battle against Christians and Muslims.
On August 22, 2014, Stephen witnessed the sheer brutality of Africa's deadliest terror group.
We were working on the farm when Boko Haram attacked us.
It happened in Gwoza, 550 miles from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. Hundreds of Islamic fighters stormed Stephen's town.
It was well coordinated. They attacked in huge numbers, going from house to house, stealing, destroying, then capturing men, women, and children.
This is video of the assault put on YouTube by Boko Haram.
They attacked Gwoza because it is predominantly a Christian town.
Several hundred people were killed, including members of Stephen's family.
I saw them kill my father and brother. After the killings, they took 11 of us hostage.
Stephen asked CBN News to mask his face to protect himself and his family. He said the attack went on for several hours. 2 days later, Boko Haram's leader released this video declaring the Gwoza operation as the beginning of an Islamic caliphate in northeast Nigeria.
Thanks be to Allah, who gave victory to our brethren in Gwoza and made it part of the Islamic caliphate. We did not do it on our own. Allah used us to capture Gwoza. Allah is going to use Islam to rule Gwoza, Nigeria, and the whole world.
Stephen was held by Boko Haram for months and says he saw their brutality up close.
We watched them carry out their evil atrocities from one town to another. Each time they went on an operation, they would usually chant Allahu Akbar, and this terrified us. They'd return from the attacks with dozens of prisoners and stolen items. The men guarding us always came around to question us whether we were ready to be part of Boko Haram.
Meanwhile, in another part of town,
they asked me if I wanted to be beheaded or shot in the head. I told them I'd rather be shot. They said no, they would rather slaughter me instead.
We've taken similar precaution to hide Elizabeth's identity. Like Stephen, Elizabeth is a Christian. She and her family were trying to escape Gwoza when they were intercepted by Boko Haram fighters.
They stopped our car and ordered us to convert to Islam. We refused. Then they shot my siblings behind me. My husband was ordered to leave. He fled into the bush and then they told me to get into their car.
Elizabeth was taken to a nearby town and again asked to convert to Islam. Again, she refused.
I stood my ground, and each time I refused, They put a knife to my neck and threatened to cut my head off.
But after days of torture, no food, and under constant threat of death, she reluctantly agreed to convert. Elizabeth described to CBN News how Boko Haram fighters forced her to undergo an Islamic conversion ceremony. They changed her name, told her to wear a hijab, and married her off to an Islamic fighter. Held against her will, she said she was repeatedly raped by her Muslim husband.
For all the horrible things Boko Haram did to me and my family, I leave them to the judgment of God Almighty.
After several more months of captivity, Stephen and Elizabeth miraculously escaped. The details of their escape are being withheld for security. Both are wanted by Boko Haram. And now both have joined some 2,000 other Christians living in this temporary camp outside the capital city.
And all of a sudden, they have been stripped of all their belongings, and they are living in places that are not their homes at all.
Mark Libdo has helped thousands through his Christian human rights group.
I'm doing this because people need to bring it to limelight. People need to speak about what is happening. If you don't speak about it, it's worse than those who are perpetrating it.
With the help of local churches, Libdo now feeds, clothes, and provides trauma counseling to hundreds of Boko Haram's victims.
There were many times while I was in captivity that I thought if I got hold of a gun, I would have massacred the men who killed my father and brother.
The Nigerian army is conducting military operations to retake areas held by Boko Haram ahead of this month's presidential elections. Nigeria's leader, Goodluck Jonathan, has promised to deal with the terror group.
President Goodluck Jonathan has vowed to crack down on Boko Haram, not necessarily getting rid of them altogether, but creating an environment in his country that is safe and allowing millions of Nigerians to head to the polls.
But Nigerians aren't convinced he can do it. Boko Haram has killed more than 11,000 people in their Islamic quest, and they are promising more bloodshed in the northeast, leaving thousands of vulnerable Christians in their wake. George Thomas, CBN News, Nigeria.
Up next, switching gears, we'll tell you about some good entertainment options for your family this weekend.
Are you looking for some family entertainment this weekend? Well, here with our weekly movie review is Bob Waliszewski from Plugged In Online. That's the entertainment review department at Focus on the Family. Okay, Bob, the new Cinderella film is out. This one is live action instead of animated. So is it still good for younger audiences?
It is. I'll just say right up front, we gave it a 4.5 out of 5. That's a really, really good score. Some families will be interested as well to know, does it take a lot of departure from the traditional story that I know, the animated Disney version? Not really. I would say it fleshes out more of the story. When the film first starts, we're actually meeting, by the way, her name is not Cinderella, it's Ella, trivia point. Her wicked stepsisters nickname her Cinderella because she cleans the cinders in the fireplace, among other things. But we meet Ella and her parents. Eventually mom dies, eventually dad dies, and then she's adopted by Kate Blanchett's character, who is a Cruella de Vil, plays that to the hilt. We find out things like she actually meets the prince in the woods the first time, not at the ball. She re-meets him at the ball. This is a fun story. Yes, there's magic here. Yes, there's some gowns that are for the ball that might be a little less than modest, but overall, I think young princesses and princes as well will enjoy this one, as well as the parents that are bringing them. I enjoyed this film. I think it's deserving of that 4.5 out of 5.
All right, before we let you go, anything out on DVD or still playing in the theaters right now that families may want to check out?
Just came out, Night at the Museum, Secrets of the Tomb. This may be the last night at the museum, kind of wraps it up. Larry, our museum keeper, a lot of folks think he's pretty good with animatronics, but we know that it's not animatronics, it's that secret tablet, but it's been losing its power, and now Larry feels that the only way to save it is to go from the American Museum to the British Museum, and so he loads up his museum exhibits and takes off to Britain in hopes of restoring that magic tablet. We've liked all 3 of the Night at the Museum from a family perspective, and this one stays within the formula.
All right, Bob, thanks a lot.
You bet. See you, Ephraim.
New research shows a diet based on vegetables, along with some fish, could significantly cut your risk for colorectal cancer. And that's not all. A vegetable-based diet could also cut down on your chances for other cancers, along with severe health problems like diabetes, heart disease, obesity, and high blood pressure. That's according to recent research from Loma Linda University, published by the Journal of the American Medical Association. The study, which covered nearly 78,000 people, also found that even just cutting back on meat can help cut the risk of cancer. Experts say making changes in your diet can have significant impact on your health.
Operation Blessing helped change the life of a little girl in Honduras. Astrid was born with a condition that prevented her eyes from aligning properly, causing her to easily lose equilibrium and making it almost impossible for her to walk without falling. Astrid's parents worked hard to save up enough money for surgery, but they could barely afford the trip to have her seen by a doctor. Operation Blessing provided the surgery free of charge to her family. Now Astrid is learning to walk properly, and her family could not be happier. You can find out more about what Operation Blessing is doing by going to its website. That is ob.org.
What a wonderful story. Operation Blessing blesses so many people all over the world.
And the smile on that girl's face, beautiful.
Especially nice when it happens to children.
Indeed.
Well, that's it for now on CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com.
Be sure to tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make it a fabulous Friday and have a wonderful weekend.